All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am here today with Danny.
Hi, everybody.
And Colleen is actually teaching today, so she will not be joining us. A couple of announcements real quick. Tomorrow, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening later, you will be past it. But if you're here live, tomorrow is our live Q&A podcast. So you can come and join us live. And if you have any Reiki questions or questions about anything else, you're welcome to join us for that. And also, we just have great discussions about Reiki in general. Other spiritual conversations end up popping up, and the questions kind of run the gamut from being, if you're very new to Reiki, you can ask a question. From also, if you are a Reiki master, or you're asking questions about business stuff, we really have a wide range of the things that we talk about. That is at 9 a.m. Pacific, so it's a little bit of a different time than today. And also, you are welcome to come late, leave early if you need to. There are ways to ask questions anonymously once you're there. We do try to get to some email questions, but sometimes it just, we answer the questions from the people live, kind of in that order. Then we go to the emailed questions. So just a reminder of that. And then the other thing is that we are actually teaching Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Animal Reiki Master next week. The dates on that are May 1st and 2nd for Animal Reiki 1 and 2, and the 3rd through the 5th for Animal Reiki Master. So go and check out Reiki Lifestyle for that. There are a prerequisite. You have to be Reiki 1 and 2, human Reiki 1 and 2 to take the 1 and 2 class, et cetera, et cetera. I won't get into the details. You can find them all on our Animal Reiki page for that. Colleen, myself, and Sue Strong are actually the ones that teach together in those classes. And they're amazing, but we're also the authors and the 3 of the 4 authors and creators of that course. So you get 3 teachers in that course, and we all have our own unique perspectives. So it's just amazing. It's super healing. It's more than just animal Reiki. You receive a new symbol. There's lots of healing work and energy work. And then you can always email us or, direct message us on social if you have any questions around that. Okay, I think those are our announcements. All right. So, over the last few months or last few weeks, we've been talking kind of more about some of the practical things with Reiki. So, how to find your authentic voice within Reiki. We talked a few weeks ago about the elevator pitches, things like that. Today, what we wanted to add to this conversation is talking about goals, goal setting, and goal setting with success consciousness. So, there's so much out there about setting goals, how to set goals, so many different practices and ways that we might set goals. And each of us are going to find the right match for how that works for us. And I would say that there's probably even, people who spend a lifelong journey on teaching those practices. So what we wanted to talk about today is how can we integrate Reiki into those practices? Because I think there are, of course, things that we could talk about with setting goals and, the clear objectives, our evolution of goals, things like that, that we can certainly cover today. But I think that probably one of the most helpful things is because there's so much information out there on those kinds of things, and even from people that are, bigger experts than us, of course, that I think what would be the most helpful is how do we integrate Reiki with that? How do we use Reiki to help us in that process? How do we use Reiki to listen at a deeper level with us? So we do talk about some of the things with these ideas. One of the bigger places that we will explore this is in our eagle vision and mouse view journey that we do. We usually do that kind of once a year. We do that usually at the beginning of the year. So I know that we have that on our YouTube or on our podcast. So if you're interested in that, then you can go and search Eagle Vision Mouse View and you'll find a guided journey for that. However, I would say with that, you can integrate it into this practice. When we do that, usually it is a little bit more from a different, no pun intended, a different viewpoint, where it may not just specifically be about our goals that we might have in our life. So that is that, but it is a helpful thing. And when I say eagle vision and mouse view, that is, the eagle vision is things from a really broad perspective, and things from a which is the eagle view, and things from a more close-up detailed perspective with the mouse view. So it is, these practical things are things that we can use Reiki for. And it is one of the things that it might be a little bit of the lesser known side of things that you can use Reiki for very practical purposes in your life. So whether your goals are about, something with your Reiki practice, something with your Reiki business, if you have one, maybe it's around your healing journey with things. Your goals can also be things that are outside of Reiki. So do you have goals for your work or career or job? Do you have goals, and that might be separate from a Reiki business or Reiki practice? Do you have goals for your relationship, or, even finding a relationship? Do you have goals for your personal health, your personal wellness, or physical wellness journey? So there's, all of these categories that we can focus on our goal setting for, and Reiki can really help in these practical aspects of it. So one of the symbols that can be really helpful is the SHK, the mental emotional symbol, when it comes to setting goals. So that is one of the things. If you are not attuned to the Reiki symbols, you can just ask for Reiki to come in and help support you in your goal setting. The other thing about goals is the fact that they can change, right? We might have a goal today. We grow as people. And one of the things that I will really say about Reiki is that it helps us with that course. And sometimes it can be a really fast trajectory of that course. Other times it can also be like we are different from one day to the next after being attuned to Reiki or even receiving a Reiki session. So that can happen. It can also be a slow process, but it's just this awareness that sometimes we can be on a certain course and then something changes our life drastically. And how do we navigate that part of our life? How do we maybe set new goals? How do we go into the healing and the empowerment that is a part of the Reiki energy as we're in this process of like, oh, okay, my life is changed from one day to the next, and now I need to reevaluate where I'm headed, what I'm doing. And that can be really overwhelming. We might not know where our clear direction is. We might not, we might need healing within that process. Sometimes that process is a really empowering thing, and we need Reiki to help us. Like, okay, then what's next? I have all of these things in front of me. What's next? So these are the places that Reiki energy comes in and helps us. And we don't always necessarily think of Reiki as a very practical tool. I know Colleen and I talk about that very regularly, how we use Reiki energy in our daily practical lives. And this is no different. When we are doing things for our business, for example, we are always using Reiki energy to help us with that. Because one of the things that Reiki energy also helps us do is it helps us personally find our own unique voice, our own unique vision. But when we're talking about our Reiki business or Reiki practice, it really helps within that. What's within my heart? What's within my heart intention? And how do I listen to me at a deeper level? How do I listen to my healed ego at a deeper level, right? Because the ego can be really helpful when it comes to helping us maybe achieve, helping us put our goals into practice, whatever that looks like. And then on the flip side of that, that unhealed ego portion of us, how do we have the Reiki energy come in and help balance us and balance that aspect of ourselves that we all have? So there's that big piece of it. So, it's one of those things that we don't necessarily, I know I've kind of said this, that we don't necessarily attribute Reiki energy and Reiki practice to. But what you can do is there's all sorts of Reiki tools for this. So there might be a lot of different reasons why goals might be a little unclear to you. Or maybe they're not unclear, but you're just in that starting point of something and you are listening or you're setting goals in this moment. Or again, maybe something in your life has changed and you are in the place of like, okay, now I have all new goals. What are those? So there's so many different reasons that we might be in this part of our life or part of this ourselves. For me, I'm 40 and I'm in a place where I kind of have goals that I am continually listening to and around. I would say naturally, I'm a relatively ambitious person. Also, though, my goals can sometimes be that I need to rest. As I was saying before we started the recording, my goal on my 40th birthday was to not get out of my pajamas until 3 p.m. that day. So that's a goal. How do I use Reiki to help me to do that? Because that can be a little uncomfortable for how normally busy I am as a working mom. Right. So those are the places too that Reiki can come in and help. So sometimes it's this idea that we have this unclear vision of what we are working towards or the goals that we may want to set. So things can be overwhelming, right? Maybe there's a lot of options, or maybe there feels like there's not a lot of options. This is another place that Reiki comes in and helps us in that discernment process. Sometimes we can feel lost. Sometimes we can feel stuck. I would say that those are two kind of separate things, but we know that Reiki energy helps us in that feeling stuck, right? It helps us move the energy through. It helps us to have an external source or an external tool to help us to get unstuck. Sometimes that can happen energetically and it can take a minute for it to manifest in our, physical daily walking life. As far as lack of direction, this is when we can use Reiki tools such as, a part of what we're going to be doing today, which is a guided Reiki journey or guided Reiki meditation, where we will be going in that deep space of Reiki and asking what are our goals for 10 years, 5 years, those kinds of questions. And again, I've been hearing it, but it's still channeled. So I don't know exactly where it's going to go as far as that. But I trust that the Reiki energy is going to guide us exactly where we need to go. And what Reiki energy is doing also, again, it's listening to that deep heart space, but it's also entraining us to these higher frequencies. So much when it comes to goal setting, we have a lot of outside noise. There's the culturally created parts of us. There's familial parts of us. There's media and all of these things of who we should be, what we should be doing, what does success look like, and that can be so different for each of us, and especially in the cycle of life that we are in. Because for some of us, it might be your ambition for your job or your career. For some of us, it might be rest, and that cycle can change, maybe weekly. It can also change yearly. You can be in a certain cycle. Sometimes our cycle is caregiving, and our goals we need to listen to those goals there. And sometimes those goals can be harder to hear because we do have all of this outside noise of what we should be doing, what we should be accomplishing. And so, but really, when it comes down to it, that's actually the goals that we have, right? It's the goals that we need to have in that moment. And how do we navigate that? So Reiki energy is helping us to entrain to those levels. It's helping us to listen to ourselves. It's helping us to listen to our higher selves, to our inner selves, to our human selves, and what is authentic to us in that moment, what is authentic to us in that cycle, and what is authentic to us in our life as well, because we each have unique circumstances and things that are happening for us. So we also can have goals that, or we can have things that are maybe making it more challenging to reach those goals. So when it comes to these different things, like let's just say we're talking about, if we're going to go to the really practical thing that we all think of when it comes to goals, right? We think of it in terms of work, or like job, business, however that looks. And a lot of times it's physical health. So those are just really easy examples. I've kind of said that obviously it extends out past that. But when it comes to those kinds of things, we might have time constraints. We might have financial constraints. There might be limited resources that we might be, coming up against. So there's those kind of things. If we're talking about work or job or practice, we might have fear. Maybe even when it comes to physical health, right? We might have fear that is known or unknown, or there on the subconscious, that there could be a part of. We might have imposter syndrome. We've talked about that here. So there's fear of starting, or maybe fear of being public with some of our goals, or some of the things that we would like to have happen in our life. And then, as I said before, we can have blocks, and we can have resistances, and we can feel stuck. And those can be from things in this lifetime. It can be things from other lifetimes, from the injuries here that we might sustain, the injuries to our kind of soul, our inner self, our higher self is one of those things that can come in and help us to navigate all of those things. So again, this is where Reiki comes in. It releases those things. It helps us to release those things. It's an external tool to release those things. So that's kind of first, right? How do we overcome these things that might be internally holding us back? And then we also have it to help us in the external pieces of it too. Maybe time is very limited for us. We either have to work a lot, we might be busy as a parent or caregiving. We have those things that are a reality of our life. So then there again, that's a place where you can ask Reiki, come in and support me with this. Help me to maybe rearrange my time so that I can add this into my life. Or maybe there's something that you can help me to release, give up. Maybe I, guilty, give up my hour of Netflix or my hour of doom scrolling, to help me and support me with the things that I want to put that hour towards with accomplishing my goals. And that is not a judgment, because me also, right? And sometimes that is what I need the most, because I need to turn my brain off for a minute. But at the same time, that's where it can help you to clarify, because maybe that is what Reiki comes in and helps me to do. It's like, give yourself a break, right? You have all of this stuff on your plate, and, let your brain turn off for an hour. It's okay, because that is what is actually going to help you in the long run. That's maybe your form of rest or your self-care or whatever it is. So, and I'm just using that as an example because it can say that as well. It's not always like, no, turn that off and do self-care in other ways, which is totally possible as well. And sometimes, that is the answer, of course. So those are the places too that Reiki comes in, and it helps you to clarify. It takes you to a higher perspective. Again, it's going to release the noise, and all of these can help you to achieve. I even hesitate to use the word achieve, but I'm going to use that for lack of a better term right now. Achieve these goals over time. Sometimes it's immediate, other times it's a longer process, and that's okay too. That's where it also comes in. It supports you with that loving energy, that pure, unconditional love that it is to support you as you navigate this process. And one of the things that William Rand says is, oh my goodness, I had it and now it just went out of my head. Danny, do you know it off the top of your head? Yeah, I know you know it.
It lost me too. I mean, I was with you, and then I can't think of it
It's
either.
like dedicate. It's something like dedication over time. Always.
I know Kim knows. Come on, Kim.
Kim,
she knows.
Go ahead, Kim.
Definiteness of purpose sustained over time always creates results.
Thank you, Kim. And Caroline, I saw you on mute too. We sing it a lot. He says it a lot. It is a really helpful quote, because sometimes you're in the weeds. Sometimes you're like, okay, I know that this is going to come down to, this will happen. And I can tell you the amount of things that I have that have taken years for me to actually, achieve that goal. It's taken years for that. And I know it will happen. There's other things that sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just going to let that go. That wasn't meant for me for whatever reason. Another place that Reiki can help in that discernment process. But I'll tell you, the definiteness of purpose sustained over time creates meaningful results. So, and we come around to that continuously. Colleen says that continuously because I don't think that changes. Sometimes things can take years. I'll tell you what, we're still in the process of building our website. I know I've talked about that. And I thought we'd be done a lot sooner. And I'm kind of in the weeds of setting up some of the back end stuff. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to slodge through this, right? Or trudge through this. And I just tell myself, definiteness of purpose sustained over time, this is going to get done. And I know that, and it's going to be amazing when it's done. And I've got this back end that's going to be way more helpful in the long run. Definiteness of purpose. And so it also comes down to it helping me within that, because I can be confident in that, because I know I've seen the results from that and know that over time, and just kind of sticking to it in that belief, I know that this is going to be really good on the other side of this. And so it will happen. And that's really true if you're trying to start a Reiki business. That's another place of definiteness of purpose sustained over time creates results. But it's true to a lot of other things in our life, not just the kind of business, job, career aspects of it as well. So then just a couple of other things with this. One of the really helpful tools can be, if you have a Reiki grid or any other sort of grids, that's a really helpful thing. You can write your goals on a piece of paper and put it on your grid. You can, I know in the Reiki 1 and 2 manual from William, which I have it right here, it's this purple manual. He's written a goal setting tool for it, and it's goal manifesting exercise. It's actually, if you have that, it's on page 100. I just happened to turn right to it. I didn't even have this bookmarked. Where you can write your goal on like a little index card type thing, And you can give that Reiki every day and help you to manifest your goal. You would start with placing it in your hand like this, giving it Reiki. Again, that mental emotional symbol is really helpful for this, but any symbol that you're called to is really helpful for this. And you give it Reiki. You can put it on your grid for continuous Reiki. Some people keep it in their pocket for the different times that maybe they are discouraged or maybe they're empowered and they kind of want to take a look at that goal again. You can keep it in your pocket and you just continue to do that. You send it Reiki and you can watch over time as this goal starts to manifest for yourself. There's a lot of tools out there for manifestation. So again, people that are really versed in that process. I know off the top of my head, I was thinking of Gabby Bernstein. She really talks a lot about manifestation. There's a ton of other ones as well. That would be another place that you could bring in that Reiki energy to help empower all of those processes, all of those exercises, all of those techniques. And it's just going to give you more of that power behind it as well. And then again, what the Reiki energy is doing is helping us to release the places that don't serve us in accomplishing this goal and help us to bring us to it in a really beautiful way. Yeah, Kim put also Marianne Williamson. She has a book, Divine Compensation. So, yeah. So, Danny, I know you have some things to add and love to hear your perspective too.
Yeah, I was just making some notes as we went along. I agree with everything you were saying. For me, goal setting is I do vision boards. I do the things you're saying, writing the goals down, but I talk to my friends about it too. I can make it out loud. I talk about it out loud, and it kind of makes me, like I'm going to do it. Oh, I really want to teach next month. Like if I talk to someone like Teresa or Kim or you guys, I'm like, okay, well now I've said it, so I really need to follow through. I also imbue objects. Like you were saying, you can hold the goal and put it in your pocket. I imbue an object like a crystal or a rock or something. I'm like, this is what this is actually, my intention is I really want, I might be scared or nervous or just procrastinating. And so I'll imbue an object and just kind of carry it or put it somewhere I see it, like in front of my desk. So I'm like, okay, there it is. It's reminding me. I think that for me, Reiki really provides clarity. So it's like, why do I want this goal? Why do I want it? And do I really want it or should I want it? And so for me, I go into a Reiki journey or again, talking to my colleagues. It's like, why do I well, you haven't been doing that. So do you really want that? I mean, you've been talking about it for a long time, but you haven't done it. So do you really want it? And so just getting into my head about that, because it doesn't matter. I mean, if you don't really want to, for instance, I'm using teaching Reiki as an example. If you've taken classes and you haven't been teaching and you're just so frustrated with yourself, which I've talked to a lot of clients. So I'm so frustrated. And as we talked in the past, sometimes it looks different. Sometimes using our Reiki isn't teaching, it's, using it in a different way. I do ceremonies. I use our ceremonies. I even go back onto YouTube and pull out a burning bowl or something. I do it for every solstice. I actually do it for new moons. I use every opportunity sometimes if my goal hasn't been, if I haven't done it, if I haven't accomplished it. Also, the next step, we've talked a lot about that in the past, the one thing that we can do, so not to get overwhelmed. So what's one thing I can do to get to that goal? It doesn't have to be, I have to do this and this and this and this, and then it'll happen. Be like, maybe I just look up something once a day, or maybe I talk about it once a day, or maybe I journal about it. It doesn't have to be a big thing, an overwhelming thing with all of our other stuff that's going on in our lives. I do muscle testing. It's kind of like the shoulds. I'm like, do I want it? Do I not want it? I'm like, oh, I really don't want that. Oh, I can get that. I can just mark that off my list and go forward. And so those are some of the things I use. Reiki boosts confidence. I'm like, I mean, I believe in Reiki so much, and it always, every day surprises me with how it works and how amazing it is. And so I just use that every day too for my goals. I'm like, okay, well, why isn't this happening? Or when it does happen, to celebrate it. Like I actually, and to, you know, I accomplished that. It's so amazing. Instead of just being, oh, I did that. What's the next thing? So quick. Like I really accomplished it. Um, and the stress reduction. My goodness, we put so much on ourselves for our goals. Um, we have our list, right? I mean, it could be 10 things. If I did this, I had a new website. If I got a new domain, if I upgraded my photos, if I have a new bio, if I marketed more. I mean, there's so much. So that's when the next step, the one thing comes in, is just not being so hard on ourselves. And I think Reiki really helps me with that. So I can calm down and I can pause and get clear and just build my intentions and have that faith. That's what I do.
Wow, Danny, thank you. So helpful. I love all of those. Yeah, really helpful. And some things I didn't even think about, like vision board, and that's one of the fun ones too, right? Yeah, thank you.